Hi there, my name is Kirsten, and welcome to Yin Yoga. Our practice today will focus on the meridians of the liver and gallbladder, finding a sense of ease in our day. So let's take a couple of moments to settle into our breath, into this present moment. You can bring a blanket underneath your sit bones. You can use a towel. You can use a pillow. Find a comfortable place for your hands to rest, maybe in the lap or on the knees. Relax the shoulders back and down. Let's take a deep breath in through our nose, closing our eyes, breathing out of the nose, and start to come into this present moment. Relax the toes, the fingers, creating space between the tongue and the roof of the mouth. Relax the shoulders back and down, soften the neck. Let's take a deep breath in through our nose. And as we exhale, let's release the day. Another deep breath in. Exhaling, release the day. And then as we shift our awareness to our breath, let's invite our exhales to become as long as our inhales. Breathing into and out of the nose, deep into the low belly, into the low back. Feeling how your inhale flows into the exhale. Your exhale flows into the inhale. And when your mind wanders, gently guide it back to the breath, connecting with the rise of your inhale and the gentle fall of your exhale. Let's bring our awareness back to the breath. With our next inhale in, let's join our hands together in front of our hearts, taking a moment to honor whatever brought us to our practice today, and then setting our intention, our sankalpa, our energetic aim for today's practice. And the light within me greets the light within you. Namaste. Let's release our hands back to our laps, dropping your chin towards our chest. Let's gently open our eyes, keeping our gaze soft. Let's roll our shoulders back a few times, shifting our torso back in space to bring our shoulders more in line with our hips. Keep dropping the chin towards the chest, feeling that stretch slide all the way down the sides of the spine into the lower back. Let's release and bring the opposite leg in front. Settling into our seat. Let's bring our ear towards our shoulder. Keep the throat open, keep the shoulders back and down, open the heart, breathing deep into the low belly. And let's come through center and gently drop our ear towards the opposite shoulder. Relax those shoulders back and down. creating space between the shoulders and ears, finding length through the side of the neck. Gently come back to center. And then maybe you want to draw some circles with your nose, making it as big or as small as you like, leading with your nose a couple times in one direction. And then move to that second direction. And let's settle back to center. Inhale, reach to the sky. Exhale, come to the heart. Inhaling, reaching arms up. Exhaling to our heart. And let's inhale, reach arms up. Exhaling to the heart. Inhaling, opening to the side. As we exhale, let's take one arm on top. Give ourselves a nice hug. Walking our fingertips towards our spine, relaxing the shoulders back and down. And let's inhale and open and bring that opposite arm on top. Relax the shoulders, low belly in. Maybe you want to drop your chin a little towards your chest. And let's release. Inhale, open. Take a moment here, open your heart, to open your throat. Reach long through your fingertips. And let's bring our hands together around the back. Shift your gaze towards your ankles or your navel. And let's inhale and come back to our heart. Let's settle into our first yin pose, which is going to be our tadpole or child's pose. So we'll bring our big toes together and sit back towards our heels. We can bring that blanket or that towel in between our hips and our heels. Our knees can be together or separated. And then we'll just walk, scoot back a little, walk our arms forward. From here, you can rest your forehead to a block. You can also roll up your blanket or fold your blanket and rest your forehead to the blanket. Maybe you have a bolster. Couch cushions work great. You can also rest your forehead forward on your bolster. We're going to be here for about 2 minutes before we move to our second side. And so settle in. Setting my timer there. You can also stack your forehead on top of your hands. You can also rest on your elbows. And with our yin practice, we want to come into the form of the pose, finding our edge. So where we feel a stretch, we could take our body deeper into the pose, but we choose to stay there at the very mild edge. Once we find the form of the pose, finding our edge, we want to release our muscles as much as possible, settling into the pose, disengaging the muscles. And then we stay a while, surrendering. And our yin practice is different from our restorative practice, in that with our yin practice, we want to feel some intensity. We want to feel that our body is in the pose. With our restorative pose, we're using our props to support our body, to restore our body. So there's no effort on our part. We're being completely supported by the floor and the props in order to restore our body back to health. Come back to your breath. Breathing deep into your low belly, into your low back, breathing into your kidneys, the source of your primordial chi, the energy that you're born with. And then either staying here in our tadpole pose, or with the option of walking our hands to one side, maybe even taking that hand to the opposite wrist and releasing forward into our twisting tadpole. You'll start to feel the stretch through the side bodies, Again, breathing deeply into the low back, into your kidneys. You can still prop up your forehead with a prop or with your hands. Getting a little bit more into the side bodies of our body. We're focusing on our liver and gallbladder in our practice this evening. And so our yin practice nourishes the connective tissues of our body, our tendons, our ligaments, our bones, our joints, increasing mobility, range of motion. And our connective tissues are a little bit like plastic or like taffy. And if you've ever made homemade taffy, if you pull it apart quickly, it snaps. But once you pull it apart, you bring it back together, pull it apart, bring it back together, it becomes more pliable, more fluid. It's the same thing with our connective tissues. And so they respond to a nice, slow, steady, gentle pull. And we're systematically creating more space in our skeleton. About 3 more deep breaths on this side. And then let's walk over to that second side. And so walking our hands past the edge of our mat, finding a comfortable place for our forehead to rest. Maybe walking that hand to the opposite wrist. Really getting into the side body here. And so in addition to stimulating and nourishing our connective tissues, our yin practice also stimulates and nourishes our meridians. And our meridians are energy lines, energy channels that transport our chi, our energy, our prana, our life force throughout our entire body. We have 6 main meridians, and they're organized into pairs: kidney and urinary bladder meridian, liver and gallbladder meridian, and then stomach and spleen. Tonight we're focusing on our liver and gallbladder meridians, as they're associated with spring, change, move, ebb and flow, as well as the emotional qualities of kindness, compassion, and ease. And in this pose, especially as we get into our side bodies here, we're specifically stimulating the gallbladder meridian as it flows through the side of our body, our kidney and liver meridians as they flow through the inner thighs, the inner groins, our gallbladder meridians as they flow through the outer hips, the outer thighs. When we reach our arms forward, placing pressure on our upper body, our upper chest, our upper shoulders, we're also stimulating the meridians of our heart, lungs, small and large intestines. 2 more deep breaths here on this second side. And let's release. In between our long held yin poses, we take some time to rest, to move. And what that movement looks like depends on what feels best in your body. Sometimes sitting there, laying there, breathing deeply is enough movement. Maybe you want to move some in your arms or in your legs. Maybe you'd like to move through some cat and some cow. And so whatever feels best in your body and encourages the chi that's pooled in our connective tissues to return to its natural flow in the body. And if you haven't already, perhaps you want to turn on some music in the background. And let's move in to our next yin pose, which is going to be our butterfly pose. And so let's elevate our hips up on our blanket. We're going to join the soles of our feet together, and we'll walk our feet farther away from our hips than we'd normally have them. And so we can bring our blocks underneath our knees. We can also take a second blanket, which I seem to have forgotten to grab. We can put blankets underneath our knees. You can take the cushions off of your couch, stick them underneath the knees. Also learn that if you don't have blocks, you can use water bottles. And so you can rest forward. Maybe you want to take, if you have a bolster, you can bring that bolster in front of your forehead and fold forward onto the bolster. You can also prop that bolster up with your blocks. So finding a way to support your body. And then we'll settle into our butterfly pose. Go ahead and round your back. Relax the shoulders. Breathing deeply into your kidneys. And just settle in so we can stay a while. And our yin practice differs from other forms of yoga in that once we find our edge, we stay there, we hold it there. Unlike our hatha practice, where we move our bodies deeper and deeper into the poses to increase our flexibility in our muscles. Our muscles still get a lovely stretch, but we want to find our edge and hold it there, systematically creating more space in the body. In this pose, we're specifically nourishing the meridians of our kidneys and liver as they flow through the inner thighs, our gallbladder meridians as they flow through the outer hips, the outer thighs, our urinary bladder meridian as it flows down the back of our body. And as your mind wanders, gently guide it back to the breath, connecting with your inhale, your exhale. And today we'll hold our poses anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes. You can always come out of the pose before I cue you to do so. You can also choose to hold the poses a little bit longer. You might start to feel some sensation in those inner thighs, those outer hips. You might also feel some in your lower back. And we want to feel some sensations. We want to feel that our body is in the pose. But we never want to feel pain. So we don't want to feel any sharp sensations or pain. So if you feel pain, come out of the pose, move a little, readjust, and settle back in a way that feels comfortable for your body. And we also want to stay in the green light area of our pose. So red light, we've gone too far. We come into the pose and a little bit in, we're like, whew, we're very aware of our body. Yellow light is it's like, we've gone a little bit too far. If we backed out, it'd be just perfect. And that green part is where we could go a little bit deeper, but we choose to stay there, settling in, surrendering to the pose, releasing that need to go deeper and deeper into the pose. And we have a little bit more than a minute left in this pose. And so perhaps you've noticed that you could go a little bit deeper, or perhaps you've gone a little too deep and you need to back out of the pose. Listen to your body. One more deep breath in, deep breath out, and let's release. Finding some breath, some movement. And again, move in any way that feels good to your body. Oftentimes, I just like to sit here breathing deeply until we get into some of those deeper hip stretches, which will be our next pose. And so for our next pose, we're going to come into dragon pose. Yin has all these fun names for poses. And so dragon pose is essentially our kneeling lunge. So we're going to grab something for that back knee. We're going to come into our kneeling lunge. So a couple of options here. I like to keep my knee over the ankle. Just helps to protect the ankle and the knee. You can bring your blocks to frame your foot. You can walk your foot a little more to the side and bring both of the blocks to the inside. You can add a bit of a twist. And we're going to go for about 2 minutes. Again, feel free to release from the pose before those 2 minutes are up. This gets to be a pretty intense pose. And so with our dragon pose, we're getting into the meridians of our kidney and liver as they flow through the inner thighs of that front leg, the gallbladder meridian through the outer hip, the outer thigh. That stretch we're starting to feel in the top thigh of the back leg is stimulating the stomach and spleen meridians. If you have a little bit more of a back bend, that's further stimulating the kidney meridians as they flow through the lower back and along the sides of the spine. If you have a little bit more of a rounded back, that's stimulating the urinary bladder meridian. So we have about a minute left on this side. Remember, you can always walk out of it a little bit more. So bringing your hands higher up on your blocks or on those water bottles. You can also take your hip a little back, more back, if it's a little too intense. And relax the shoulders and create a little space between your tongue and the roof of the mouth. Find your breath. Settling in. Two more deep breaths on this side. You can breathe into your hips, especially if the pose is pretty intense here. And let's release. And from here, we're going to move into our next pose. So with that leg that's forward, we're going to walk it over towards the other side of our mat, settling into our sleeping swan pose. So you can keep a blanket underneath the knee. You can also take a blanket and slide it underneath. That might be a little too high. Slide it underneath the hip. You can stay lifted, or you can fold forward. This is a great place to take your block and rest your forehead to the block. An option here is to roll onto your back and find the eye of the needle pose. So whatever leg was forward in our pose, that will be the one that we bring closest to our body. So we'll bring our foot to our opposite ankle. We can stay here. We can prop up our foot up on our block. We can reach for our hamstring or our shin. We can have that leg, our foot a little bit more up. And so just a different option. And so whatever leg is forward will be the one that's closest to your body. And the reason we stick that blanket underneath the hip is so we don't start to roll so much to that outer hip. It helps to balance us between our two hips. And I like to have my knee open a little bit more to the side. That's my preference. So like my knee open a little bit more to the side. It might feel better to you to have your heel more towards your tailbone and your knee a little more forward. Again, supporting that hip with your blanket. So lots of options here. Find the one that works for you. And so with our sleeping swan pose, we're again getting into the meridians of the kidney and liver as they flow through the inner thigh of that front leg, the outer hip of the front leg for the gallbladder meridian. With that arch that we have to our back, that's further stimulating the kidney meridian. If you have a bit more of a rounded back, that's stimulating the urinary bladder meridian. With the pressure we're placing on the top of the back thigh, that stimulates the stomach and spleen meridians. And then we're stimulating the meridians of the urinary bladder as they flow down the back leg. And about 2 more minutes on this side. Relax the shoulders. Tune into the sensations of your body. And if your mind's wandered away in thought, gently come back to the breath, feeling the rise of your inhale, the gentle fall of your exhale. Breathing in, aware you are breathing in. Breathing out, aware you are breathing out. With your next exhale, gently releasing from the pose, finding some breath, some movement. Now what I like to do is move my blocks over to the side that I've already done. So I remember to do that second side next. Sometimes it feels nice to wiggle our legs. Either reclining or seated windshield wipers are nice. You can move as fast or as slow as you'd like. Couple more breaths, couple more movements. And we're going to settle into that second side. We're going to start first with our dragon pose. And so we'll bring one leg forward, bring the other leg back, coming into that kneeling lunge. Restart our timer. And so I had both hands to the inside of my foot last time. And so with that back knee, the reason I'm using the blanket here is to give a little more padding to my knee. If you really need to, you can curl the toes under, which will help support the knee. You can also gently press your 5 little toenails into the floor. That helps to support the knee. Remember, you can add that twist. You can frame your foot. You can be lifted up. Remember, if you have those water bottles, you can also use those as blocks. And we have about a minute left on this side. So relaxing the shoulders, opening the heart. Invite your breath to flow in and your breath to flow out. See if you can settle into effortless effort. Finding ease in your body, ease in your pose. As you breathe in, feel the rootedness, the groundedness in your body. The feeling of coming home. And let's slowly release into our sleeping swan pose. So whatever leg is forward, we're going to settle in to that pose. So you can take that blanket and slide it underneath the hip. You can keep a second blanket underneath your knee. You can stay lifted or you can fold forward. Remember that other option is to come onto our back. Knees are bent. And then whatever leg is forward will be the one that comes to the ankle. Remember, we can leave our foot on the floor. We can elevate it up on our block, our blanket, or our pillow. You can reach for your hamstring or your shin. So a couple of different options here. Reclining is a little bit easier on the knees. I'm just settling in. Relax your shoulders. Find your breath. And we're at the halfway point of our sleeping swan pose or of our eye of the needle pose. So take a moment and bring your awareness inwards. Notice what you notice. If you've gone down the rabbit hole of thoughts, connect with that next breath in, that next breath out. If you've gone a little too deep into the pose, gently back out, shift a little bit, and settle back in. Our sleeping swan pose, especially when it follows our dragon pose, is a very deep hip stretch. Right, we're getting into the muscles, the connective tissues there. And we store a lot of our past emotions in our hips. So if stuff comes up, as stuff comes up, you can use the breath to breathe it in. And as you exhale, release, let it go. If it becomes a little too intense, feel free to come out of the pose, wiggle a little bit, and settle back in. There's no right or wrong way to feel in our yin poses. We just want to avoid pain. So we don't want any sharp sensations. Or if you come into it, you kind of make that face of like, ooh, come out of it, adjust, and settle back in. One of the many things I love about the yin practice is you can adapt it to whatever you need in this moment. And your practice today will look different than it did a week ago. It'll look different than it does a year from now. And it truly is about coming into the pose in your body and how your body needs that pose today. We have a little less than a minute, so come back to your breath, connecting with the expansion of your inhale and the release of your exhale. One more deep breath in. And as you exhale, let's release, finding some breath, some movement. Sometimes it feels nice to come on all fours, moving through your cat or your cow. I also like to extend a leg, press the ball of the foot to the floor, stretch out the calf. Sometimes it feels nice to lift the leg, or even open the hip to the side. Again, move in a way that feels good to your body. And from here, let's start to transition to our back. So keep your props handy. And our first pose is going to be banana asana. We are going to lay on our back. We're going to walk our hips to the far side of our mat. Then we're going to walk our feet to the other side. And so our hips are on one side. We're going to walk our shoulders and arms to the same side as our feet. So our hands and feet are on one side while our hip is on the other. You can bring the arms above the head. You can walk your hands to the elbows. You can bring your hands to the wrists. You can just reach the arms over. It's like we're making a crescent lunge or a crescent moon pose rather with our butt. You can even take that leg that's on the same side as the hips and bring it across the ankle. And so with this pose, we're getting into the side body, which helps to stimulate the gallbladder meridians. And when we raise our arms above our head, it stimulates the meridians of the heart, the lungs, the small and large intestine. And depending on what resource you look at, you have either over 72,000 or over 300,000 meridians or energy channels. They're also called nadis. So a lot of different energy lines in the body. We have about a little less than a minute on this side. Let's take a deep breath in. And as we exhale, let's release. And we'll move to that second side. We'll uncross our ankles. We're going to walk our hips over to the other side of our mat. Leave our feet, or walk our feet to the other side. And leaving our hips over there, we're going to walk the torso and arms to that second side. We'll be here for about 2 minutes. Again, you can cross the ankles. You can walk your hands towards the elbows. You can also just reach the arms above the head. We're just trying to get into that side body to stimulate the gallbladder meridians. Anytime we bring our arms above our head, it's stimulating the meridians of the heart, the lungs, the small and large intestines. As we gently pull on the tissues of the upper arms, the upper body. As you exhale, settle in, releasing thoughts, feeling the breath flow in, the breath flow out. Three more deep breaths in, deep breaths out. And let's release. Take a moment, hug your knees in towards your chest, maybe rock gently side to side. Again, finding any movements that feel good to your body to encourage the chi that's pooled in our connective tissues to return to its natural flow in the body. And then our last poses for today are going to be our twists. And so the first option I'm going to give you is to come into a seated twist. So crisscross applesauce for Sukhasana, or you can come into Siddhasana, where one ankle is in front of the other. And then you'll just add a twist. Remember, it doesn't have to be our deepest twist. We just want to come into where we start to feel a stretch, and then we want to settle in. Our other option is to come into our reclining twist. And so a couple of options here. You can hug one knee in and bring it across the body. You can bring both knees in and bring both knees to one side. It's lovely here to bring your blanket or your couch cushion in between your knees or in between those whole lower legs to really support the low back. And from here, we'll reach our arms out from our shoulders. So find a twist that works for you. We're going to be here for about 2 minutes per side. So if you'd like to stay a little bit longer than that, feel free to pause me a little before we transition to that second side. Twist help to balance out the right and left sides of the body, to balance the right and left energies. They're beneficial for our digestion, detoxification, as well as elimination. And anytime we cross the midline of the body, it's an opportunity to reset, to start anew. You can gaze up, you can gaze to the same side as your knee, or you can gaze away from the knee. And then if you'd like to further stimulate the meridians of the heart, lungs, small and large intestines, bring the arm that's opposite your leg a little bit higher than your shoulder. It doesn't have to be straight back. It can just be that your elbow's a little bit higher than the shoulder. And let's release, and we'll move to our second side. You can wiggle a little between your two sides if you need to. And you can always support your body in a different way on that second side. Just settling in, finding your breath. Remembering that you can bring something underneath the knee or that lower leg for a little more support. If you have a bolster, it's lovely to bring the bolster underneath that whole lower leg. It just helps to support the low back. We have about a minute left on our second side. As you exhale, invite your body to sink a little deeper into the earth. With our twist, we're stimulating the meridian of the gallbladder as it flows through the outer hip, the outer thigh, whatever leg is on top. As we twist through our rib cage, we're also stimulating the gallbladder meridian. And we're stimulating the meridians of our kidneys and urinary bladder as they flow along the sides of the spine. And if you've raised that arm that's opposite your knee above your shoulder, you're helping to stimulate the meridians of the heart, the lungs, the small and large intestines. And let's release. Maybe hugging the knees in towards the chest. Taking any final movements, any final breaths. Again, hugging the knees in towards the chest. Maybe rocking gently back and forth. Finding any final poses, any final movements. Before we start to settle into final relaxation. And so for final relaxation, we'll rest in Shavasana or corpse pose. So we're going to lay on our back, allowing our feet to open as wide as our mat. Toes are rotated to the side. Arms are next to our sides, palms open to the sky. From here, you can take your rolled up blanket or towel. You can slide it underneath your knees and lay back. If you have a bolster, you can rest your knees on it. You can also rest your calves on it. You can also take your bolster and you can either prop it up with another blanket or with your blocks, either low or medium. And again, bring your calves to rest on it for a little extra support, a little extra elevation. Wherever we are, let's take a deep, full breath in. And as we exhale, let's close our eyes. Start to tune back into your breath. Again, relaxing your toes, your fingers, and your tongue. Softening the muscles of the face. And as you exhale, sink deeply into the mat. Releasing, relaxing, letting go. You have nowhere to be, nothing to do, just to be here, breathing. When your mind wanders, gently bring it back to the breath. Breathing in, aware you are breathing in. Breathing out, aware you are breathing out. Feel free to stay in Shavasana as long as your body, your mind needs today. When you're ready, roll to your favorite side. Right side is more relaxing, left side is more energizing. Pause here for a few deep, full breaths, drawing the arms, the legs in. As you rest on your favorite side, gently wiggling your fingers, your toes, take a moment to offer a thank you to your body for doing the work so willingly this evening, today. And take a moment and come back to your sankalpa, your intention for today's practice. And with our next breath in, let's use our top arm to press up into our simple sitting pose, joining our hands together in front of our hearts. As you settle into your seat, take a moment and bring your awareness inwards. Notice how you feel in this moment right now. Tapping into those feelings of ease, of peacefulness, of calm. Cultivate feelings of warmth and friendliness towards yourself. Feeling ease in your breath, feeling compassion towards yourself. And as you head off to the rest of your day, I invite you to lead forward with a kind, compassionate, understanding, and grateful heart. And from the bottom of my heart, I thank you for sharing your practice today. And namaste. Thank you. Again, my name is Kirsten, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.